Choosing Life by ginnyrules27, Chapter 41. So, what was that you said about us not being able to pre-order our kids, Chad? Akio teased. It was a beautiful day, and the new parents, and Chad and Ginny, had decided to congregate at Ben and Mal's castle. Of course, such a get-together had not been planned, but that just made it all the more special. Had it been planned, both Jay and Lonnie would have been included, but sadly both of them were off on their respective sports schedules. All of the girls had gone off on their own whilst the guys had split off, though that had almost been expected since, with the exception of Harry, all the guys had been on the same sports team. The babies were in the nursery, watched by the world's best babysitters in Estelle and Nix. The only exception was Caroline. Since she was so little, both Jane and Carlos felt better if she was with her mother. Plus, all the new moms wanted to fawn over the new baby, and who were they to stop that from happening? Ben had offered to have the babies in their group, but Mal had put her foot down, claiming that Ben needed this time to relax and remember he was more than just a dad. Of course, Amir, Akio, Carlos and Harry all needed that reminder as well, so Ben didn't feel as bad. Chad shook his head, amusement evident on his face. I should have known better when it came to you three. It's almost like you're telepathic when it comes to choosing your life events. Or we're just really good planners, Amir said with a grin. Well, congrats, you guys, Chad said, his voice soft, though he tried to keep the longing and jealousy out of his voice. It wasn't his friends' fault that he and Ginny hadn't had kids yet. Thanks, Chad, Akio said, giving the other blonde a soft smile. You okay? Carlos asked, also looking at Chad. He couldn't help but notice that Chad had gone quiet. Chad sighed softly. I'm fine, really. I'm happy for you guys. It's just Ginny and I have been having trouble having kids. And we found out a while back that she's only got a 55% chance of having a pregnancy. And if she ever does, it would likely be best if it was her only pregnancy. Gods, I'm so sorry, Chad, Ben said, his voice soft. It's not your fault, Ben, Chad said with a small sigh. He knew Ginny had told Mal, so he had to wonder if Mal hadn't told Ben the news. And if she hadn't, Chad oddly found himself grateful to her. It was nice knowing people weren't out gossiping about their ability to have kids. After all, none of us knew about the Isle's food issues, and if the gods want to bless us with a child, I'd be happy if we only had one, but Ginny, I think she thinks she failed somehow. I've told her over and over again that it doesn't matter, that I've got 3 sisters who would be the heir to Charmington after me if we never have kids, but I know Jenny feels like this is the one job of a princess or queen that she can't do. If it helps, Elle felt the same way before she got pregnant with Emily, Akio said, his voice gentle. I know it's not the same thing, but if you need someone to listen while you talk about it, Chad, I'll be there. I'm sure Elle would be happy to talk to Ginny. Thanks, dude. It's appreciated, Chad said, giving Akio a sad smile. Like I said, I'm alright. It doesn't matter as much to me. Yeah, that's a lie, Carlos thought. You might be pretending, Chad, but that's just it. Every VK knows what it's like to put on a tough act. Just ask Jay. He did it for his whole life on the Isle. Well, like I said, Elle would be happy to talk to Ginny if she wants, Carlos heard Akio say, and pulled himself out of his thoughts so he could be more present in the conversation. It'll happen for you, dude. I'm sure of it. It took Elle and me years, after all. And yet you just happened to time it so that your daughter would be the same age as Ben and Mal's kiddos? Carlos snorted. Like Amir said, Carlos, we're good planners. Plus, I don't think you're exactly one to talk since your daughter will be the same age as our kids. Ikea grinned before shaking his head. Let's move on to lighter topics, shall we? Anyone want to place bets as to when Jay and Lonnie will join the parent club? Do Jay or Lonnie want kids? Ben asked. Thankfully for Akio, at least, the sound of a crying baby over the baby monitors that had been stationed in the middle of the guy group prevented any speculation as to the thoughts either Jay or Lonnie had towards being parents. How they got the monitor was anyone's guess, considering all their spouses wanted them to relax, though it was a belief amongst those in the group that either Amir, Harry or Carlos had swiped a monitor when they were up at the castle. Yes, Carlos was an unlikely suspect when it came to swiping, but he was a VK and he was friendly with Jay and Harry. It wasn't hard to believe he picked up on a few skills from them. Ben, you wouldn't be interested in trading sons, are you? Amir said, a joking note to his voice. Amir, you're giving Maurice back to me within an hour. You'd miss Ethan too much. Ben chuckled. Yeah, I wouldn't trade my strong-willed little guy for anything. But seriously, Ben, your twins are the calmest babies I've ever known. Amir said, shaking his head as he pulled out of his phone to text Emma. You forgot who their father is. Chad teased. Ben is the calmest guy we've ever known. Not when I was a baby, though. Ben chuckled. According to Mum, Dad, Lord Hades and Lady Steph, the twins get their calmness from Mal. Oh, that's right. Mum once said I was calmer when we were babies. Chad said, and shook his head. That's possible? Carlos asked, tilting his head. Mal asked the same thing when she heard that. Ben said with a slight chuckle. And, yep, it's possible. Amir, everything alright with Ethan? Yeah, Emma just texted back. Amir nodded. Little guy's just hungry is all. Good, Ben said with a small smile, before biting his lip. I hate to ask this, but should Ginny be in a room with 5 other mothers when she's the only non-mother there? Chad sighed. It's a tough call. I know it's probably hard for her, but at the same time, what do I do? Take her out of the room? Besides, I'm the only non-father here in a room full of 5 other fathers, and no one seems to be concerned about that. He couldn't help but think before he had time to hold the thought back. You're right, Ben said with a small sigh, unaware of Chad's thoughts. Besides, at least Ginny's got Mal in there, so she'll have another VK girl with her. Chad said. Yeah, Mal really took Ginny under her wing after you two got engaged, Ben said, giving Chad a small smile. Yeah, she did. Chad nodded, a small smile pulling at his lips at the memory. He had been really grateful for Mal in that regard. He knew Ginny had been worried about navigating royal life. I think Mal was just happy that she'd have another VK queen, Carlos chimed in, using the nickname the press had given the 2 VK royals. Ginny's not a queen yet, though, Chad said, shaking his head. Mum and Dad are still happily ruling Charmington. I think Dad said they'd retire when all the kids give them grandkids, though I'm pretty sure he was joking. Though I know Ginny's pleased about having Mal's ear. She was really worried about navigating royal life. And Mal could sense that. Ben told him before chuckling as another baby's cry could be heard over the monitor. That would be my girl. Amir shook his head as Ben pulled out his phone to text Mal. You know you've got 4 people ready to act as babysitters if you need it. Why didn't you ask one of your parents to watch Stephanie and Maurice for the day? That's not what VKs do, Carlos said softly. When something's valuable to us, we don't let it out of our sight. Plus, I'd rather not let my father and Lord Hades have unsupervised access to the kids while they're still in their spoil the grandkids contest, Ben said as he looked up from his phone. Everything okay? Harry asked. Ben nodded. Stephanie had a dirty diaper. Mal said she's got it covered. Carlos chuckled. Now we just need Helena, Caroline, Emily and Maurice to cry and we'd have the full set. Don't jinx it, Carlos, Akio said, shaking his head.
Hey, let's all just be grateful that all our kids are decent sleepers for their age.
Amir pointed out.
Ethan may be stubborn about it, but once you get him to sleep, he sleeps well.
Yeah, I've heard some horror stories. Granted, they're all from Elle's cousins, all of which there are many. Akio nodded. Some kids just won't sleep, so we're some of the lucky few who got kids who will.
I'll agree with you there, Akio, Amir chuckled. Emma will deny it, but Ethan definitely gets his stubbornness from her. Mal thinks the twins take after me, but Stephanie's definitely taken after her,
Ben said with a grin. Helena's looking to be a mini Uma, Harry grinned. It's too early to tell who Caroline's taken after, Carlos said with a small smile. Chad couldn't help the slightly sad smile that pulled at his lips as he listened to the discussion.
One day, he told himself, one day I'll be able to be a part of this group. This father group, and not be an outsider. After all, there's still an over 50% chance of Jin getting pregnant. I just need to think positively. It'll happen. We just need to be patient is all. Sorry, Ben said, his voice soft as he looked over to Chad.
Chad shrugged slightly. Not your fault, Ben. I can't expect you guys to not talk about your goods. That wouldn't be fair to you. Besides, your kids are great. You should be very proud.
Well, I can't speak for the others, but I am,
Ben said with a small smile. I couldn't be prouder of my little girl, Akio said.
My little guy is the light of my life,
Amir said. Chad smiled before turning to Harry and Carlos. What about you two? Not disappointed you didn't have sons?
If the day ever comes where I say I'm disappointed that Helena's not a boy, I want you to chuck me straight into the Strait of Ursula, Charming,
Harry said. Carlos nodded. Yeah, boy, girl, doesn't matter to me. I'm just happy both Caroline was born healthy, and both she and Jaina are doing okay. Besides, something tells me Harry and I can just spoil Maurice if we really need a nephew to spoil.
Please don't, Ben shook his head. Mal and I are still trying to curb our parents' spoiling of the kids. We don't need honorary uncles doing it as well. Your dad and Lord Hades still in the best grandpa contest?
Amir asked.
Yep, Ben nodded. And of course Mum says she's helping us, but she also asked me what colours the twins would like their private libraries. Plural.
Ben, it's your mum, Chad said. Does this really surprise you?
Well, no.
Chad shook his head. Heard from any of the other guys on the team? He asked, hoping for a change of subject.
I heard Connor and Rowan got engaged,
Ben said with a smile. Oh, congrats to them, Chad said. Is Connor the first quote-unquote lower-ranked team member to get engaged? I mean, technically no, Carlos chuckled. Connor's a lord when he inherits from his mum, Lady Charlotte LeBeouf. Jay and I never had any titles. Amir chuckled.
Well, I think the only princes who were on the team were us four, Lee, and possibly Miguel, though he always says he wasn't a prince but a chieftain's son.
What about Brendan? Akio said.
I don't know,
Amir said, looking over at Ben.
Ben, do you?
Ben shook his head.
We were only on the team with the guy for who knows how long, but he's not a prince. His mum's Boo. Mary, I mean, but she goes by Boo. You know her story with the monsters? Ah, right.
Amir nodded. Chad couldn't help but chuckle.
Did you guys ever picture our lives would be like this?
Honestly? No, Akio said. If it hadn't been for Ben's proclamation,
which we are very grateful for, Harry and Carlos got in.
Yes, well, if it hadn't been for that, Amir and I figured we'd have to act as Ben's gods when we grow up.
Akio shrugged. Which would have surprised no one, most likely.
Amir said.
Well, at least for me. Akio is heir to his own kingdom. He'd have to stop with the shadowing at some point, whereas I'm only second-born, and therefore have all the time to devote to making sure Ben is safe. You're insane, you know that? Ben asked. Thank you! Not a compliment! We know! Ymir and Akio said with a chuckle.
Ben shook his head and looked back over at Chad.
How are your sisters doing?
Good, Chad said with a small smile.
Mum's loving being a grandmother. She spoils Elliot whenever she gets the chance. And there's talk Lucy and Bobby might be trying for a kid themselves soon. Oh, congrats to them!
Ymir grinned.
Yeah, we're all excited for them, Chad said. And if Lucy does have a kid, I'll look forward to meeting my future niece or nephew. Plus, Elliot gets a new playmate, so he'll love that. You know, speaking of kids, I just thought of something,
Ymir chuckled.
What if our kids end up together? That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest, Chad said. After all, you guys seem to have timed them being born.
Pure accident, I assure you, Akio said with a smile as a third baby's cry was heard over the monitor.
Should we head in? Carlos said. I know we were told we didn't have to be fathers today, but I'm going to admit it. It feels weird not being around Caroline right now. Maybe it's just because I had Cruella as a mum growing up, but I don't want to do anything she might have done. DeVille, you haven't made your ass a blanket of dude's fur, so I think you're in the clear so far. Harry chuckled before nodding. I'm with DeVille though. Plus, it's not fair for us to just laze about while the captains and shadow wranglers and DeVille's ass have to juggle relaxing and being mums. Shadow wranglers? Is that not what your wives are? Harry asked, looking at Ymir and Akio. The man has a point, Ymir said.
Well then, let's head in, Ben said, and the group of guys got up and made their way inside the castle. I thought we said you guys didn't have to be papas today, Mel said as the group of husbands found their wives.
Yeah, well, it was decided that it felt strange.
Ben chuckled and kissed Mel on top of her head before taking one of the twins from her arms for ease of holding. He couldn't help but smile as he saw Chad pull Ginny into an embrace.
Don't worry, you guys. It'll happen, he thought. After everything the fates put you through. Put both of you through. It would be too cruel to not give you something good. And if they don't, well then, I'll just have to talk to my father-in-law to have words with them.
Though Ben really hoped it wouldn't come to that. If for no other reason than because Lord Hades still terrified him and he was not ashamed to admit that. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. I like that chapter, but good sweet mercy, I want to give Chad and Ginny hugs so badly. I like all the papa talk though, it's very sweet. It's just sad from Chad's perspective. And I'm sorry Ginny if my uploading schedule's been a bit all over the place recently. I had a cold a few weeks ago, but ever since then I've had a really sore throat on and off, and it makes recording difficult for me. I keep choking up horrid stuff and it's just painful on the throat, but I'm trying. Anyway, yeah, that was sweet. I like that it was Harry and Carlos that said they felt weird not being around their kids. Very sweet. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Oh, before I leave, I love the reference to Boo. Monsters Inc. was one of my favourite movies growing up, so thanks Ginny, love that. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified for whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and albino pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.